Welcome to the world of science function. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. The silent expanse of the Draxian Nebula stretched endlessly, its iridescent tendrils casting soft, otherworldly glows across the drifting wreckage of an ancient battlefield. Amidst the desolation floated a peculiar, egg-shaped object, forged from a silvery black alloy that shimmered as if alive. No one could guess its origin or its purpose. It had survived wars, catastrophes, and even time itself, millennia without a scratch. And, more curiously, it had a mind of its own. Inside a cramped research vessel, Ethan Carver, a sharp yet perpetually disheveled xenobiologist, leaned closer to the monitor displaying the mysterious object. His wiry glasses slipped down his nose as he squinted at the pulsating light emanating from its core. Beside him, Kira Dane, a brash yet resourceful engineer, cracked open a protein bar, clearly unimpressed. "It's a piece of junk," Kira said, her voice laced with sarcasm. "Probably leftover debris from some alien toaster. Why are we wasting precious fuel orbiting this thing?" "Because, Kira," Ethan replied, adjusting his glasses, "this junk, as you call it, has deflected every known attempt at examination." Draxian plasma cannons? Nothing. Neuron waves? Nothing. It even resisted direct retrieval from 3 Federation mechs. Whatever it is, it's a fortress. Kira gave him a sidelong glance. "And you think it's a good idea to bring it on board? You've heard the stories, right? First contact rarely ends with handshakes." Ethan ignored her, engrossed in the faint, almost musical vibrations the object emitted. It was as though it were humming to itself, a melody no one else could hear. After hours of careful maneuvering, the research vessel's robotic arm latched onto the object. The moment it touched the hull, the lights flickered, and the ship groaned ominously. Alarms wailed. Kira bolted to the console. "Great. Now it's angry. Did you even scan it for dormant AI?" Ethan shot her a sheepish look. "It's not, well, it might be sentient. But isn't that the point of studying it?" Before Kira could unleash a tirade, the object's glow intensified. A beam of golden light shot out, scanning the ship's interior. Ethan and Kira froze, watching in stunned silence as the light zeroed in on Ethan. Then, with a flash, the object disappeared. Kira blinked. "Tell me that didn't just vanish." Ethan was too stunned to respond. He felt a strange weight on his chest. Looking down, he saw it, metallic tendrils snaking around his torso, molding themselves into sleek, form-fitting armor. The material felt alive, warm even, as it adjusted to his frame. "Ah, Kira?" Ethan said hesitantly. "I think it found me." Kira's jaw dropped. "Oh, no. Absolutely not. You're not dragging me into whatever cosmic nonsense this is." Ethan staggered back, his movements unsteady as the armor continued to morph. A holographic interface appeared before his eyes, displaying unreadable symbols. Then, a voice, smooth yet cold, spoke in a language Ethan didn't understand. "It's talking," he muttered, his voice tinged with awe. "I think it's evaluating me." Kira rolled her eyes. "Fantastic. An alien fashionista has taken over my ship." Before Ethan could respond, the ship's systems went haywire. Monitors displayed garbled data, and navigation controls became unresponsive. Then came the worst sound of all, a proximity alert. Kira spun around to check the console. "We've got company. Unidentified vessel approaching fast." The alien ship appeared on the display, a hulking mass of jagged metal and crimson lights. Its silhouette was unmistakable, the Haxor, infamous scavengers known for plundering anything of value, including people. "They must have tracked the object," Kira said, her voice grim. "And now they think we have it." Ethan fumbled with the armor, trying to pry it off. "Can we just give it to them? Maybe they'll leave us alone." Kira shot him a glare. "Sure, let's hand over the sentient alien tech. I'm sure they'll send us a thank you card before spacing us." As the Haxor ship locked onto them, the armor tightened around Ethan, pulling him upright. His vision shifted, overlays appearing in his field of view. The voice spoke again, this time in broken, stilted English. Human, selected. Bond, confirmed. Ethan blinked. What does that mean? Kira didn't wait for an answer. It means you're stuck with it. Now grab something useful, we're about to be boarded. The ship jolted violently as the Haxor's grappling hooks latched onto their hull. Kira raced to the storage locker, pulling out a plasma cutter and tossing Ethan a stun baton. He clutched it awkwardly, feeling wholly unprepared for the chaos unfolding. As the Haxor breached the airlock, their guttural growls echoed through the corridors. Ethan's heart pounded. He glanced down at the armor, which seemed to pulse in response to his fear. Before he could process it, the tendrils extended, forming a sleek, bladed weapon in his hand. Kira whistled. Well, that's convenient. The first Haxor stormed in, a towering brute with jagged armor and glowing red eyes. It charged at Ethan, who instinctively raised the blade. To his astonishment, the weapon seemed to move on its own, slicing through the attacker with precision. Ethan stumbled back, horrified and exhilarated. Did I just do that? The armor's voice responded. Human potential, acceptable. Kira ducked behind a console, firing her plasma cutter at another Haxor. Whatever this thing is, it better keep impressing, because we're outnumbered 10-1. As the battle raged on, Ethan found himself moving with unnatural agility. The armor anticipated every attack, deflecting blows and countering with lethal efficiency. Yet, amidst the chaos, a question lingered in his mind: why had it chosen him? By the time the Haxor retreated, the ship was a mess. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, and the air was thick with smoke. Kira slumped against the wall, her hair singed at the edges. Well, she said, catching her breath, that was the worst first contact ever. Ethan sat down heavily, the armor receding slightly to reveal his sweat-soaked face. Kira, I think this is just the beginning. She gave him a weary look. Yeah, no kidding. Now, how about you figure out what that thing wants before it gets us killed? The armor's voice interrupted, more coherent now. Purpose, protection. Host, required. Danger, imminent. Ethan exchanged a glance with Kira, the weight of the situation settling over them. Whatever the armor was, it wasn't just a relic. It had a mission, and, like it or not, Ethan was now part of it. The ship's systems sputtered back to life, but only barely. Dim emergency lights cast long shadows across the narrow corridors, while the faint hum of the engines served as the only reassurance that the vessel hadn't entirely given up. Ethan sat at the console, furiously typing commands to assess the damage. The armor, still latched onto him like a second skin, hummed faintly, as though sensing his frustration. This ship is held together with duct tape and sarcasm, Kira muttered, crouched by a panel to manually reroute power to the thrusters. Her hands were smudged with grease, and the tension in her voice matched the grim set of her jaw. If those Haxor come back, we're toast. Ethan didn't respond. His focus was locked on the alien language scrolling across his visor. It was evolving rapidly, integrating fragments of human syntax and vocabulary. He realized it wasn't just communicating, it was learning. Can you understand me? He ventured aloud. The armor's voice responded immediately. Yes. Understanding improves. Language adaptation, ongoing. Kira froze mid-repair. Great. Now your wardrobe talks. Ask it how we're supposed to survive with half an engine and no shields. Ethan hesitated, then asked, do you have a plan? Or are we just waiting for the next disaster? The armor's voice turned sharper, more precise. Threat imminent. Pursuit likely. Solution, flee. Flee? Kira snapped, slamming the panel shut. Brilliant. Except our engines can barely crawl, and our NAV system is fried. We're sitting ducks. The armor emitted a faint pulse, and Ethan's visor suddenly filled with a star map. A single point blinked in the distance, a planet marked as viable refuge. There, it said. Safe haven detected. Kira leaned over Ethan's shoulder, squinting at the map. That's in the middle of uncharted space. For all we know, it's a lava planet. Ethan shrugged. Do we have better options? No, she admitted, exhaling sharply. Fine. Setting course for Mystery Planet. If we die, I'm blaming you and your fashion accessory. The ship groaned as Kira rerouted what little power remained to the engines. It wasn't elegant, but the vessel lurched forward, inching toward the coordinates provided by the armor. The tension in the cockpit was palpable, every flickering light and shuddering panel a reminder of how close they were to catastrophe. As the hours dragged on, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The armor's hum grew louder, almost restless. Then came the proximity alert again. Not now, Kira groaned, scrambling to the console. Her face went pale. It's them. Haxor ship, closing fast. Ethan's chest tightened. How did they find us? Kira shot him a look. Gee, I wonder. Maybe the glowing alien armor broadcasting signals across the galaxy? Before he could argue, the armor spoke again. Engage. Engage? Ethan repeated, his voice rising. Engage how? This is a research vessel, not a warship. The armor didn't answer. Instead, it enveloped him fully, the tendrils snaking up to cover his face. His vision shifted into a dizzying array of holographic displays, each showing a different angle of the ship. The alien symbols translated rapidly, giving him access to systems he hadn't even known existed. Ethan, Kira said cautiously, what's it doing? He gripped the console tightly, his voice trembling. I think it's taking over. The ship jolted violently as the armor rerouted power from non-essential systems to the engines and shields. Kira stumbled but quickly caught herself, her eyes wide with a mix of awe and terror. You're flying the ship? She asked. I'm not sure it's me, Ethan admitted. It's more like, we're flying it together. The Haxor ship appeared on the main display, its jagged silhouette closing in fast. Warning lights flashed as it launched a barrage of plasma bolts. Ethan braced for impact, but the armor reacted faster, activating the ship's limited shielding just in time. Kira gaped at the controls. This thing's turning our junker into a fighter. If we survive, remind me to apologize to it. The Haxor's attacks intensified, each impact rattling the vessel. Ethan's mind raced, but the armor's voice cut through his panic. Countermeasures available. Authorization required. Authorization? Fine, you're authorized, he shouted. The ship's exterior panels shifted, revealing concealed weaponry that neither Ethan nor Kira had known existed. Pulses of concentrated energy shot back at the Haxor, forcing it to veer off course. Kira let out a low whistle. Okay, now I'm impressed. What else can it do? The armor didn't answer, but Ethan felt its intentions, an urge to press forward, to escape. He realized it wasn't just defending him, it was driving him toward something. The blinking coordinates on the star map loomed larger as they neared the uncharted planet. The Haxor weren't done yet. Their ship regained its trajectory, unleashing a fresh wave of attacks. One bolt struck the rear engine, sending the vessel spinning out of control. Hold on! Kira yelled, gripping the console as the ship spiraled toward the planet's atmosphere. Ethan clenched his fists, the armor tightening around him. Can you stabilize us? Attempting, the armor replied. The ship shuddered violently as it entered the planet's gravity well. Ethan's visor displayed rapidly shifting data, altitude, velocity, structural integrity. The armor deployed what remained of the shields, absorbing the brunt of the descent. They hit the surface with a bone-jarring thud, skidding across a barren expanse before coming to a halt. Smoke billowed from the wreckage, but the ship held together. Barely. Ethan groaned, his body aching from the impact. Is everyone okay? Kira coughed, waving away the smoke. Define okay. We're alive, so I guess that's something. The planet's surface stretched endlessly around them, a desolate wasteland of jagged rocks and crimson sand. The sky above was an eerie shade of purple, with two suns casting overlapping shadows. It was hauntingly beautiful and completely inhospitable. As they stumbled out of the ship, the armor scanned their surroundings. Hostile environment. Minimal resources. Threats likely. Kira snorted. Fantastic. Welcome to the middle of nowhere. Before Ethan could respond, a low rumble echoed across the landscape. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. "What now?" he whispered. From the horizon emerged a massive, insectoid creature, its chitinous body glinting in the sunlight. It clicked its mandibles, its multifaceted eyes locking onto the wreckage. Kira raised her plasma cutter, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "Guess we're about to find out if that armor's as good on the ground as it is in the air." Ethan swallowed hard, the armor's voice resonating in his mind. Survival, dependent on cooperation. "Cooperation," he muttered. "Great. Let's see if it cooperates with not getting us killed." As the creature charged, Ethan felt the armor surge with energy, transforming his fear into something else entirely, determination. He didn't know how they were going to get out of this, but one thing was certain, they weren't going down without a fight. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the massive insectoid creature bore down on them, its thunderous steps sending vibrations through the air. Dust and sand swirled around the wreckage of their ship, creating a hazy battlefield. Ethan tightened his grip on the alien blade that had formed from the armor, his heart racing as the creature let out a guttural screech. "Ethan," Kira yelled, holding her plasma cutter with both hands. "If that armor has any tricks left, now's the time." The creature lunged, its mandibles snapping inches from Ethan's face. Instinctively, the armor reacted, enhancing his reflexes as he dove to the side. He landed in a roll, springing to his feet with a speed and agility that felt almost alien. "Survival imperative," the armor's voice intoned. "Host directive, eliminate threat." The words echoed in Ethan's mind, but he had no time to question them. The creature swiveled toward him, its multifaceted eyes glowing with a predatory glint. It struck again, its razor-sharp legs slashing through the air. This time, Ethan didn't dodge. The armor guided his movements, and he raised the blade, deflecting the attack with a burst of sparks. Kira, meanwhile, flanked the creature, firing off precise plasma bursts. The searing bolts struck its carapace, leaving scorch marks but failing to penetrate its thick armor. "This thing's tougher than it looks," she shouted. "We need a weak spot." The armor pulsed against Ethan's skin, its voice calm yet insistent. "Analyzing. Target vulnerable at joints. Strike with precision." Ethan relayed the information to Kira. "The joints. Aim for the legs." "Easier said than done," she retorted, ducking as the creature's tail whipped toward her. It smashed into a nearby rock formation, shattering it into a cloud of debris. As the battle raged on, Ethan began to notice something strange. The armor wasn't just protecting him, it was teaching him. He felt his movements becoming more fluid, his strikes more calculated. The blade in his hand seemed like an extension of his body, reacting to his thoughts before he could even act on them. The creature reared back, its massive form silhouetted against the twin suns. Ethan took the opening, rushing forward with the blade glowing faintly in his hand. With a leap that defied gravity, he slashed at one of its front legs, severing it cleanly. The creature let out a deafening screech, stumbling backward as green ichor spilled onto the sand. Kira capitalized on the moment, firing a concentrated plasma shot at one of its rear joints. The bolt struck true, and another leg buckled under the creature's weight. It collapsed partially, thrashing wildly in an attempt to regain balance. "Not so tough now, are you?" Kira muttered, though her voice was tinged with exhaustion. The creature, however, wasn't done yet. It unleashed a piercing shriek that reverberated across the landscape. The sound was almost physical, shaking the very air and causing both Ethan and Kira to stagger. "What's it doing?" Ethan shouted over the din. Kira's face paled as she pointed toward the horizon. "Calling for reinforcements." Ethan followed her gaze, his heart sinking as smaller insectoid creatures emerged from the distance. They were fast, their sleek bodies darting over the rocky terrain like shadows. "We can't fight all of them," Kira yelled, retreating toward the wreckage. The armor's voice chimed in again. "Retreat not viable. Adaptive strategy required." Ethan clenched his jaw, his mind racing. They couldn't hold their ground against an entire swarm, but running wasn't an option either. The armor, as if sensing his turmoil, began to pulse with a new intensity. "What are you doing now?" Ethan demanded. "Energy redistribution," the armor replied. "Tactical deployment, wide-range offensive." Ethan didn't have time to question it. The armor's tendrils extended outward, glowing with an otherworldly light. The blade in his hand dissolved, replaced by a sphere of crackling energy that hovered in front of him. The air grew heavy, charged with static. Kira's eyes widened. "What the hell is that?" "Shockwave," the armor said simply. "Cover ears." Ethan barely managed to shout a warning to Kira before the sphere exploded, releasing a wave of kinetic energy that rippled across the battlefield. The smaller creatures were thrown back, their fragile bodies crumpling under the force. Even the massive creature staggered, its carapace cracking in several places. The blast left a scorched crater in the sand, the ground still vibrating from the impact. Ethan collapsed to one knee, panting as the armor retracted slightly, its glow dimming. "Energy reserves depleted," it said. "Operational capacity reduced." Kira rushed to his side, hauling him to his feet. "Nice move, but now what?" "That big one's still kicking." Sure enough, the massive creature rose again, battered but still dangerous. Its mandibles clicked menacingly as it prepared for one final charge. Ethan steadied himself, his grip tightening on Kira's arm. "We finish it." "How?" she asked, gesturing to the crater. "You've got no juice left, and my plasma cutter's almost out of charge." The armor's voice interrupted. "Final strategy, direct strike to central nervous cluster. High-risk maneuver." "Define high risk," Ethan muttered, but he already knew the answer. He glanced at Kira, their eyes meeting in a silent exchange. They didn't have a choice. As the creature lunged, Ethan charged forward, the armor activating what little energy remained. He ducked under the snapping mandibles, narrowly avoiding a crushing blow. The armor guided his movements, propelling him upward onto the creature's back. Kira provided cover, firing her remaining plasma bolts to distract the creature. "Make it count, Ethan." Climbing onto its thorax, Ethan spotted a faint glow near the base of its neck, the central nervous cluster. The armor formed a small, concentrated blade in his hand, its edges vibrating with an almost imperceptible hum. "Do it now," the armor urged. With a shout, Ethan plunged the blade into the glowing spot. The creature let out a final, earth-shaking screech before collapsing, its massive form slamming into the ground with a resounding thud. Green ichor pooled around it, and its body twitched once before going still. Ethan rolled off its back, landing in the sand with a groan. Kira ran to him, pulling him upright. "You're insane, you know that?" "Worked, didn't it?" he replied, his voice weak but triumphant. The two of them stood amidst the carnage, their breaths heavy and their bodies aching. The swarm was defeated, but their ship was still in shambles, and the desolate planet offered no sign of salvation. Ethan glanced at the armor, which had receded slightly, its voice quieter now. "What's next?" The armor pulsed faintly. "New threat analysis, pending." Kira let out a dry laugh. "Fantastic. Let's hope your alien fashion sense includes survival skills for desert camping." Ethan managed a faint smile. One step at a time. As the twin suns dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the battlefield, the two of them prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. The fight wasn't over, not by a long shot. The eerie quiet of the battlefield stretched over the barren landscape as the twin suns dipped below the horizon. Shadows swallowed the jagged rocks, leaving the wreckage of the battle bathed in faint twilight. Ethan leaned against a boulder, his breath coming in ragged gasps as the armor pulsed faintly around him, its energy reserves clearly depleted. Kira dropped to the ground beside him, clutching her plasma cutter like a lifeline. "So," she said, her voice heavy with exhaustion, "what now? We've got no ship, no backup, and a very angry planet." Ethan didn't answer right away. His eyes were fixed on the wreckage of the massive creature they had defeated. Despite the carnage, something about it tugged at his attention. The armor, sensing his thoughts, flickered to life. "Source of inquiry detected," it said, its tone weak but steady. "Analyzing residual energy signature." Kira groaned. "If that thing twitches even once, I'm voting we run." Ethan pushed himself to his feet, staggering toward the creature's remains. The armor's tendrils extended, scanning the glowing ichor pooling around the body. A soft hum emanated from the armor, and a new holographic display appeared in his vision. "Energy source compatible," the armor stated. "Extraction possible." "Extraction?" Ethan asked aloud. "What does that mean?" Kira stood, brushing dust from her pants. "It means your alien suit thinks this thing is a battery. Which, honestly, is the least weird thing I've heard today. Can it actually do it?" The armor answered by forming a sleek, needle-like device from its tendrils. It plunged the device into the ichor, drawing in the glowing substance. As the ichor flowed into the armor, its faint glow brightened, and Ethan felt a surge of renewed strength coursing through him. "Energy levels restored to 60%, the armor announced. Operational capacity improved." Kira raised an eyebrow. "Well, that's one problem solved. Now about the ship." Ethan glanced at the wrecked vessel, its twisted frame barely recognizable. "It's not flying anywhere," he said grimly. "But maybe we don't need it." The armor's display flickered again, showing a map of the surrounding terrain. A glowing marker appeared in the distance. "Structure detected," it said. "Potential refuge. Investigation advised." Kira crossed her arms. "Great. More wandering through alien wastelands. At least tell me this refuge doesn't come with more giant bugs." "No guarantees," Ethan replied with a wry smile. "But unless you've got a better idea." She sighed heavily. "Fine. Lead the way, fearless alien suit-wearing leader." The two of them set off, the distant marker their only guide. The terrain was unforgiving, jagged rocks and shifting sands making every step a challenge. Yet, with the armor's assistance, Ethan moved with surprising ease. Kira, however, struggled to keep up, muttering curses under her breath as she tripped over yet another rock. "Next time we crash land on a planet, I'm picking the destination," she grumbled. After hours of trekking, they crested a ridge and froze. Below them lay an ancient structure, half buried in the crimson sands. It was a massive, circular building, its surface etched with alien symbols that glowed faintly in the dark. Tall spires jutted into the sky, and a soft hum emanated from the structure, almost like a heartbeat. "That's not ominous at all," Kira said. The armor pulsed. "Structure is of similar origin to host augmentation. Likely source of further resources and data." Ethan frowned. "So, it's connected to you?" "Affirmative," the armor replied. "Potential answers within." Kira rolled her eyes. "Potential death traps too, but sure, let's check it out. What's the worst that could happen?" They descended into the valley, the structure looming larger with every step. As they approached, the faint hum grew louder, resonating in their chests. A massive archway stood at the entrance, its symbols glowing brighter as Ethan and the armor drew closer. The moment Ethan stepped through the archway, the structure came to life. Lights flickered on, illuminating intricate carvings on the walls. A deep voice echoed through the chamber, speaking in the same alien language the armor had once used. The armor translated instantly. "Welcome, chosen host. You have arrived at the Nexus." Ethan exchanged a wary glance with Kira. "Chosen host," he muttered. "What does that mean?" The voice continued. This sanctuary was built to house and protect the legacy. Only those deemed compatible may enter. Kira raised an eyebrow. Legacy? Sounds fancy. Ethan turned his attention to the room. In the center stood a pedestal, atop which rested a crystalline orb. The orb pulsed with the same energy as the armor, its glow casting dancing patterns on the walls. Approach, the voice commanded. Ethan hesitated, but the armor urged him forward. As he reached the pedestal, the orb rose into the air, hovering at eye level. A beam of light shot out, scanning him from head to toe. Host integrity confirmed, the voice said. Access granted. The orb dissolved into a stream of light, flowing into the armor. Ethan gasped as a flood of information overwhelmed his senses, memories, images, and knowledge from an ancient civilization. He saw glimpses of a long-forgotten war, of the armor created as the ultimate defense against a malevolent alien force. When the light faded, Ethan staggered back, his mind reeling. It's a weapon, he said, his voice trembling. This armor was made to fight something. Something big. Kira frowned. Bigger than what we just fought? Ethan nodded grimly. Much bigger. The Haxor, the bugs, they're nothing compared to what's coming. This armor was designed to protect whoever could wield it. And now, that's me. The room trembled, and the voice spoke again. Danger imminent. Host must prepare. Kira grabbed Ethan's arm. What kind of danger? The armor pulsed. They are coming. Ethan's heart sank. He didn't need an explanation. The memories he'd absorbed made it clear, whatever they were the reason the ancient civilization had fallen. And now, they were returning. Kira squared her shoulders, her usual sarcasm replaced with determination. Well, good thing you've got a talking alien suit and a genius engineer on your side. Let's figure out how to use this place before the bad guys show up. Ethan nodded, a spark of resolve igniting within him. The fight wasn't over, not by a long shot. But for the first time, he felt ready. Together, they would face whatever came next, armed with the power of the Nexus and the knowledge of those who had come before. As the structure's hum intensified, signaling the activation of long-dormant defenses, Ethan and Kira braced themselves. The universe was far more dangerous than they had imagined, but they weren't backing down. Not now. Not ever.